Luck be a lady tonight.
Hi, this is Girl with a Mic, and today I would like to talk about the work of director Tamara Jenkins. In 1998, when Jenkins released her first picture, Slums of Beverly Hills, she was one of the few female directors to break into the male-dominated position. Despite numerous awards and critics' acknowledgments, she had a bumpy road ahead of her. Fans had to wait for her sophomore film, Savages, until 2007, 9 years later, when Searchlight rescued the movie by signing on to produce it. Jenkins was sure that Savage's AFI Movie of the Year award and Oscar nomination for Best Writing would open doors for her, but that didn't happen. 11 years later, Netflix signed on, bringing Jenkins' third picture, Private Life, to the small screen and limited theaters. It premiered in 2018, making Jenkins an acclaimed female director and writer who can only get her movies made once every decade. Despite all her struggles, Private Life is proof that Jenkins remains a powerhouse of a storyteller. Let's take a closer look at her work. One main theme that weaves through all three of Jenkins' movies is loneliness and apathy, and as a result, many of Jenkins' characters feel helpless. For example, she shows a middle-aged woman disconnected from her partner, reaching out for love. She highlights a man experiencing the pressure and relief of death growing near. She lets a young girl imagine what it would have been like to have a mother. She demonstrates how someone's own situation can make them insensitive to others' needs around them. Yet her work doesn't leave you depressed. After every critical moment, Jenkins provides relief. Her humor is relatable in that the circumstances are not funny, but we laugh anyway at the absurdity of it.
It's not funny. It's not funny.
Another motif that runs through her work is the courage and strength to move on. Whether dealing with broken relationships, drug use, money problems, illness, or infertility, Jenkins mixes some of life's more difficult moments with the hilarious, stranger-than-fiction ones we also experience as humans.
Oh, they left the chicken in the oven!
It's not a chicken, that's a cat.
Each film is set inside the confines of both a warm and wacky family, exploring the relationships between father and daughter, brother and sister, and husband and wife. Jenkins throws everything into the mix so that when her films are completed, they're a true slice of life. For example, she builds on the anticipation and excitement of a first date by splashing big multicolored lights in the background, hearkening it to the same feeling you get as a kid on Christmas Eve. She features kids who are thrilled about their new home, having spent most of their lives in uncomfortable living situations. And she reveals a moment of freedom and empowerment after a major life change. Moving on to Jenkins' technical style, this scene at the restaurant is a perfect example. She establishes on a long lens, then pushes in a little closer. In this particular scene, she uses physical objects in the frame to show the separation between the characters, which is a divide they'll have to conquer. After, we go into shot reverse shot. It's all pretty straightforward and a standard approach for coverage. There's a saying, you can't screw up a good written scene by going from establishing to middle to close-ups. And here we see perfect representation of this. There are no extreme close-ups, nor are there 10 different angles. Jenkins lets her script and the actors do all the heavy lifting, seemingly following the adage that a director's most important job is to cast the right people, and that movie will never be great if the script isn't.
But you don't have to worry about like, oh, what is this moment? Because is it funny? Is it because it's already written for you? You just have to kind of ride the ride that's there.
Another example of her straightforward but artistic choices is this bit in the car. Here we have two different close-up shots that compromise the entire scene. First, we start off focusing on Sadie, someone we know nothing about, other than the fact that she dropped out of college. The camera is positioned in the back seat of the car, looking at her diagonally, almost as if it is spying on her while we decide whether or not she is the right person for the egg donation. The other close-up is on Richard, completely in profile, since we are familiar with his character by now and know what he's thinking. Tamara uses oneers too. In other words, she gets a bulk of the scene in one shot. Sometimes there's no camera movement. Sometimes there's minimal camera movement. And what's most noteworthy is the scene doesn't lose anything. Instead, this seamless camera work sets the tone, the way it should in a good motion picture. This is a family fight on Thanksgiving, shot handheld and mirroring the frantic nature of the people involved. 5 characters come one after another into the kitchen. Camera stays in the same area, trying to catch what is most important in each particular moment. And it works. The abrupt camera moves translates the chaos like a snowball fight that gets bigger and icier. An alternative way of shooting this scene would be to shoot a ton of coverage on each character from multiple positions and to follow shot-reverse shot technique, which would take tons of time on set. The scene ends with a baked turkey massacre. Gosh, how many turkeys do you think they pre-baked and cut for the scene? Let's hope it was one and done. Knowing Jenkins' struggle with funding, we could assume that her style was dictated by budget. But it would be interesting to see what she would do in her 4th film if money was an unlimited resource. The final shot of the fight sequence is even simpler. Camera practically doesn't move, but so much happens in different depths of the frame. In the foreground, you see 2 people trying to get away as fast as possible, while in the background, their niece is being chased by her family. The camera is looking through the car frame, so it creates that uncomfortable feeling for the audience that our lead characters end up in. This slow pan here starts from a space that had so much joy when their niece was living there. Not only was her physical presence so energetic, but she also represented the hope of becoming parents that our couple had for so long. Now it's all gone. The empty bed is like their empty feelings and empty dreams. The man is holding the phone on speaker when the doctor explains the pregnancy failed once again. But you don't have to see it or hear it to understand what is going on. And the use of a slow pan mimics the feeling one has before facing something they know is coming. The shot here is the most technically involved shot I have seen in Jenkins' movies. And let's face it, it's not that complicated. Jenkins' cinema language tells you a lot about her movie's settings. The B-roll doesn't show redundant images that everybody in the world knows, like the Hollywood sign or the Empire State Building. Instead, the audience sees moving pictures that represent the spirit of a place. Same goes for the dialogue scenes. This one happens in the laundry room, but you immediately understand the culture of Beverly Hills.
Your mom had her nose done too?
Yep, and her breasts.
Really? Silicone?
Or this, for example.
No, why don't you just go screw a younger woman then?
What are you talking about?
Oh, look! There's one now. Go fuck her!
Typical New York. When Jenkins' films end, except for going through circumstances that have changed them on the inside, her characters are pretty much where they began, an ending similar to some of the best films ever made. In Slums of Beverly Hills, we have a father of 3 with no money in his pocket and no one to rely on. In Savages, we have a woman running with a dog that belongs to her married boyfriend, still hoping she'll become a big writer one day. And in Private Life, we have a couple nearing their 50s, desperately trying to have a child. But after you as an audience experience the very depth of all the troubles her characters go through, you hope they end up all right. Tamara's work speaks for itself, and we're hoping we won't have to wait another decade for her next masterpiece.
I got the part! Sky Masterson is mine!